Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Collider Studio at San Diego Comic-Con 2023. I'm especially excited to talk to these two right now. Ghosts of Ruin, I am fascinated by this whole idea, how this show was created. It's something that our audience might not know about just yet. So, Mike, I'll give you these duties as the showrunner on Ghosts of Ruin. Can you give a brief description of what this show is about?
Certainly. Ghosts of Ruin is a YA adult animated series, and we're a bit greedy, a bit dystopian. We've got a lot of action, a lot of character. It's very character driven, and it's also got a lot of horror in it because we like horror. It's one of our things. So it's really fun. It takes place in the near future in a sort of dystopian San Francisco, and we're doing the Tournament of Ruin, which is going to debut this brand new fully immersive technology called neural reality. And 100 of the world's best gamers, of which she's one, is coming together to compete in this epic battle royale where they're going to just play the game for the first time, and it's going to be something really amazing. And this Lee, this young nobody from the Cubes, he wins a chance to be a part of this, and he's just in way over his head. And then they all get into trouble because there's something else in the game that's hunting them, something horrible, something monstrous, and it's killing them one by one in horrible ways.
I have so many follow-up. That was a great description, by the way, but I'm ruining my order here. A couple things I want to follow up on. I was looking on Instagram at the player cards you released. What rank is your player?
What rank is Juggernaut? That's a great question, actually. Am I just non-observant? What rank is Juggernaut?
Your character's card wasn't up there, so it was just
it's not
making
up
me
yet.
wonder.
It's not up yet.
No, we'll have to send it to you after the fact. 'Cause
Okay.
I think she was ranked 5.
Okay.
But there's actually Juggernaut's not the highest ranked player, but she's got the most sort of attitude out of all the
Okay.
players.
I've got questions about that attitude. Another word you brought up, from the Cubes.
Yeah.
What does that mean specifically?
In this near future, as in unfortunately today, I guess there's a real disparagement between those that have and those that have not. And I think that Lee is from the sort of the poorer part of town, and there's very few people have all the money, and pretty much everyone else lives without.
That sounds familiar.
Doesn't it? Yeah, a little bit. I imagine it'll just get worse in the future.
We see more and more cautionary tales coming to life nowadays.
Optimism.
A little disturbing. Your first acting experience, right?
Voice acting, yes.
Voice acting. Is this something you sought out, or were you approached with this opportunity?
I mean, a little bit of both, I'm going to be honest, because I have my American agency, UTA, and through them I was given the chance to audition for this incredible project. But I'm someone that's always had a love for animation, and voice acting in general is something I really wanted to try for just years. So I'm really stoked to be part of this.
Many follow-up questions, because now I have to know. You're a fan of animation. Do you have a
Yes.
single favorite series or movie?
If I'm going to be completely honest, I'm a huge anime fan specifically.
Ah.
So Death Note is my one and only true love.
Excellent choice right there.
Thank you.
So you get the opportunity to audition for this.
Yes.
When you're even prepping for your audition, what is your biggest burning question that you need to ask the people you're auditioning for to kind of wrap your head around what this even is?
Honestly, it's just kind of what are you looking for in this character, Because once I have a vague idea of okay, this is the image we have for her, this is kind of how she faces things with her attitude, it's okay, let me try to bring that to life.
Okay.
So, yeah.
We're coming back to that attitude.
Okay.
You have a lot of experience working in animation, but again, I keep hinting at the fact that this is a very different show in terms of the way it was created. Can you tell me something about your approach to the work that has stayed the same from your past animation experience to this, but then also name something about this process that is entirely different?
Certainly. For me, all good storytelling is about character. So it's always character, and every show I've ever worked on, even though there'll be heavy plot lines throughout the animation, or even it's a comedy, it's all about the character. And so that's never changed, and that's what this show is all about for me. It's there's this dystopian future, and it's the horrible monsters killing people in this game, but really, at the end of the day, it's about these characters and how they come together, and they're a found family. And Juggernaut's got he's like a brother, but he's not a brother, named Castle. And they're inseparable, these two. They grew up together, and he's always looked out for her, and they look out for each other. And so it's about those relationships, and that's always stayed true through everything I've ever tried to do.
And how about something that's completely different given the fan interaction that was involved in actually creating what we're going to see in the end product.
That's what's so brilliant. I love it because I've been doing this a long time, probably far longer than any adult should be doing animation. But luckily, I'm very immature in my head, so it works out. The community involvement is so brilliant. It's like so many shows I've worked on, we've been so separated from the fans just by time alone, but also when you're working on bigger productions or you're working sort of in a space, you don't interact with fans, you're very isolated. But here, we got to actually work with fans, work with community early on. And I would have them vote on things. I would have them vote on like props and models. Like what do you think Juggernaut's boots should look like? And we would give them different options, and they'd all vote. And then we had different votes on dialogue. Like we had AleXa read like 4 different versions of one line, and they got to vote on which one they liked the best, and that went in the show. So it's just been this great interaction, like from the very beginning, the script process even, we were sort of interacting with the fans.
That is the coolest thing ever. I do have a question about where you draw the line in terms of fan interaction, though, in picking things so that when they see the finished product, everything isn't spoiled for them and it's still a surprise.
That was actually a real consideration because we were worried we'd give away too much. So even when we had to pick dialogue lines, it was like there were certain lines I wanted to give the fans, but it was like, no, that gives away too much information that might spoil something for them. So we had to really think about what was sort of put in front of them so it wouldn't spoil the whole thing.
I like that you get the best of both worlds there. So going back to Juggernaut now.
Yes.
So I don't ask you like, who is Juggernaut? At the beginning of the show, what do you think the character's greatest strength is? But then I also want to know her greatest weakness, the thing that will do her in this tournament and what they need to do to survive.
Ooh, I mean, with my knowledge of the plot thus far, I would like to say probably her advantage and weakness might be the same thing, which is just like her like spark, this like spontaneity she has, I guess, you know? She's like, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. No holding me back. I'm going to commit to the bit. But at the same time, that could also be kind of detrimental in many ways.
Okay. That's like the core of an interesting character, where their greatest strength is also their greatest weakness. So given how you just described her, is there the opportunity to kind of play on the spot? Because like you have your own interpretation of the role, you have what the fans are voting on for you to say. What about just like being spontaneous on the spot in the sound booth?
I mean, fortunately, I was actually given the opportunity to kind of just say whatever a few times when we were recording. They're like, hey, just, say what you feel like during this kind of scenario. How would Juggernaut react? And I just fed some few lines, and they're like, you know what, we'll take it. So
when you're playing like that, can you maybe give me an example of something you did that felt so out of left field that made you think they're never going to actually use this, but now we might be able to see it in the final cut of the show?
The real question is, what's camera friendly?
I say on Collider, anything's camera friendly.
Well, we say curse words.
Very many curse
We're an
words.
adult show. Yeah,
Very many curse
we say
words.
the F word, we say everything.
All right,
so.
all right. F-bombs, and when I was looking at some of the early footage, obviously, like, the blood caught my eye and the creatures. Yes. Can you maybe give me, like, a little... I love horror. I'll watch and read, and I like all forms of storytelling, all genres. Horror is my number one, so when I see stuff like that, especially in animation, which I feel like should be embraced more, maybe.
I agree.
It gets me very excited. So how far do you push it with the blood, gore, and horror?
You don't want it to be gratuitous. You want it to kind of fit the storytelling, but also you want to push it because you want to give people an experience that maybe they haven't had yet. Like when you're mixing this sort of gaming with horror and animation all together, you want to sort of give them something that's going to surprise them. And so that's sort of my instinct, is to sort of create those moments of blood and gore that aren't just gratuitous and just for the heck of it. There's a real purpose behind it, but also it's scary and it's shocking and it gets your adrenaline going.
That's the best kind.
Yeah.
Sign me up for all that. So you brought up the neural reality idea, which is basically like a step ahead of virtual reality and what we have and what we're actively using often right now. But when it comes to neural reality, do you see like the starting point of that in our real world? Like, it is inevitable, right?
Yeah, our story takes place in 2065, like 40 years from now.
Yeah.
But I mean, in all honesty, who knows? It might be sooner, because the way the world is going and the way that virtual reality is evolving and neural reality is on the horizon, I'd say it's really coming fast. And and also our sense of neurality is that virtual reality is enough to almost make me lost in with my brain, and it's like, am I really experiencing this? But when you actually get to neuroreality, your brain won't be able to tell the difference. So all of our perceptions that we're just looking around here and we're talking to each other, our brain won't be able to tell the difference if we're in neuroreality, if we're actually experiencing this or not experiencing it.
Horrifying.
And that's what we're dealing with. Well, that's what sparked the whole idea, was the fact that this young guy gets his brain shattered in neuroreality, and he's got PTSD from it. And it's like, are we going to suffer like trauma when we play these games? If it's so real to our brains, how's our brain going to know the difference?
So functions as a cautionary tale.
A little bit.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I think we need more of those in the world. To highlight some of the other characters now, here's another Juggernaut question for you. So you brought up Castle, so I have a feeling that character might be the answer to one part of this. But of all the players in the game, who does she respect the most, and who does she respect the least?
Oh man, okay, again, just based off of my knowledge of the plot thus far and what I've recorded, she definitely holds Castle very near and dear to her. Like, I mean, again, like Mike had said, they're inseparable, basically like siblings, though they are not related by blood. But the thing is, I feel like with Prism, there's this level of, I do respect you, but at the same time, I kind of hate your ass. Like, you know, it's kind of like, not exactly sibling rivalry, because they don't have that kind of sisterhood going on, but it's just very, there's a bit of animosity there, but mixed in with the, okay, I'll listen to you, but if you listen to me, you know, that kind of give and take.
Rosario Dawson's character, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, your voice cast here is exceptional. Of all of the roles in the show, which voice actor was the easiest to cast? Where like the perfect person just magically emerged and fit the role, and then which character was the most difficult to find the perfect fit for?
Well, I mean, and this is going to sound like I'm saying it because she's sitting right next to me, but AleXa was like a godsend for us in terms of Juggernaut, because she was already Juggernaut when we did the auditions, and we're like, oh my gosh, she's perfect for this. Like I think we knew we wanted her like right away, but we have to go through the process of doing callbacks and double checking and make sure we're just not imagining it, you know. And so she was the character from the beginning, and she brings so much life to the character. So that was the easiest one, I think, definitely.
You even see it in that reel. Like we only see you, I think, deliver maybe one or two words. I'm like, oh, like this just feels right, and I barely know anything about the show thus far. Thank you.
Exactly. The hardest one, it's a character named Dr. Brennan, and he's this very very academic kind of and he's also very cold and calculated, and he's got this kind of a voice for me that was really hard to find, because he has to be also human, but underneath it, but he has to be also very kind of like scientific, but he's also one of our, I don't want to go spoiler away, but he's got some things going on that we're going to find out later aren't so great. And it was a hard voice, but John Bentley came in and did it, and he's just a pro. And we worked for a little bit on it, and he found just the right voice that was in my ear. And I was like, oh, that's it. And so that one took more time to find, only because the character himself you don't want a cliche. You want to find something that has layers to it, and so that was the hardest character.
Where are you all in the production of the show?
We're physically in production on the first 4 episodes. Okay. We're in animation on the first 4. We've already gotten most of the other scripts written for the second 4. Actually, those are all written, and so we're pretty much in production on the show.
And the first one is due out in August.
Well, right around mid-September, probably early September, mid-September.
Okay.
It's gonna drop.
It's very exciting.
All 4 episodes should drop by October 15th.
Okay, and where can people watch it when the time comes?
We are having a really kind of a cool moment with Gala Film. They're our parent company, and they've just been beautiful with us, and they've got a special sort of debut on their Web3 space, on the Gala Film space.
Okay, I am curious about Web3. There was a quote that I read somewhere where it was like that technology is going to continue to change the industry as we move forward. So can you maybe give an example of like a way that people can pinpoint it being used on Ghost of Ruin now, and maybe something that you haven't even tapped into that could change the game in the future, on future seasons maybe?
Absolutely. I think there's so many ways that Web3's been sort of an amazing, brave new world, I think, in terms of especially this, in terms of community, in terms of people coming together from different areas all over the world and coming together and making a show like this. And that's what's so exciting to me. It's like we actually created a show in the Web3 space for the Web3 space with the fans, with the community themselves. And I think that's a game changer right there. And I think that's only going to get more. That's, to me, the beauty of Web3 is that it's the people, it's the community. It's this everyone coming together and making something, or making a group of people that all want to hang out together. You know, it's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I love TV and film. That's why I love Comic-Con so much. It's like we're literally right smack in the middle of that vibe right now.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love
exactly.
it. So for voice acting now, what is something, again, I know you're not finished with the performance work on this particular season, but what is something you've accomplished thus far that you're really proud of? But then also, what is like a new skill you've tapped into that you're eager to use with what recording lies ahead for you in the future?
Fantastic question. Let's see. I don't know. I think overall, just the fact that this is the first professional voice acting gig I've had, let alone to be casted by somebody like Mike Ryan, I'm like, damn, this is... Never thought I'd be doing this, but here I am, thank God. Like skill set wise, I think just learning how to read in a booth, that's the thing. Because again, with like auditions, it's just like, you know, you record yourself, you send it in, but like actually getting feedback in real time, learning how to adjust and tweak the way you say things for like better line delivery is definitely something that was a really good, I guess, skill set that was learned during the recording process.
This is going to get awkward, but one of the things that fascinates me most about voice performances is when people, like it's hard enough delivering the lines, but when people have to do efforts of the bunch, what effort comes most naturally to you? But then what is like the everyday sound a human being makes that's most difficult for you to replicate?
Exactly. That's a great question because I mean, Ghosts of Ruin, there is fighting happening, and it's like, I don't normally make fighting noises on the daily. Like that's not something I do. So I guess finding what sounds natural, especially there's a difference between giving an attack versus receiving one. So it's like, you know, I guess finding the differentiation between those two and seeing, okay, this sounds like it could happen if I got hit in the head with a crowbar. Like, you know, I guess.
Those little nuances make all the difference.
They do.
You have good leadership guiding you through this,
Mike
though.
Ryan.
I have to let you go because you have a lot of celebrating to do, but huge congratulations on what you've accomplished thus far. I'm fascinated by this whole idea. I cannot wait to see the finished product.
Thank you so
Cool,
much.
thank you so much.